All right, so thanks everybody for joining online and in person. This is the Columbia, Maryland Admin User Group, the February 2025 edition. My name is Evan Ponter, and very lucky to be joined by Carmel James, who drove up from Alexandria on our very dreary, cold, raining February afternoon. And today we're going to go through the Art of CPQ. So very excited, and with that, I'll hand it over to Carmel.
Awesome. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Lovely. Here, I'm also gonna do that. Jabari will come back when he wants to come back. Okay. Hello, everyone. I hope that you can also see me in this small corner. I don't know, probably, maybe. Who knows? But I'm Carmel. I am a senior Salesforce administrator at a company called Viz AI. Maybe my screen wants to move my presentation to the next slide, possibly. There we go. Look at that. Feel free to just use my first name. I'm like Madonna, Beyonce, Zendaya, first names only. And so I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for the better part of a decade. Can't believe I said that out loud. And I am just very passionate about CPQ in general. I've been an in-house admin, I've been a consultant. When I was a consultant, we did a lot of CPQ, and it's just not a really well-known sales cloud, or not even, it's not a cloud. It's not a well-known tool. But before I get started, I do want to ask, how many people have used CPQ before?
I have briefly.
Brief.
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit.
A little bit. Anyone online?
I have not.
Okay. All right. Well, then I think that you're going to enjoy this session. So before we get started, we're going to go over 5 things. And these 5 things are the standard things that everyone should know about CPQ. All right. Now, don't go away and being like, oh, I'm an expert. Carmel taught me. No, I didn't teach you nothing then. Do not call yourselves expert after this session. You are not. You barely scratched the surface. So we will go over the history. How is it different from standard Salesforce? Different pricing methods, discount structures, and deployment methods. This is giving you enough information to be dangerous. So after this, go read help.salesforce.com, go find the PDF about CPQ and go read. And don't say that I made you an expert, because I didn't. That never happened. So to start out, the history of CPQ actually is not with Salesforce. Back in 2009, which I was going to age myself and now I'm not going to. But back in 2009, there was a company called SteelBrick who actually built the entire instance of CPQ. So everything that you know about CPQ started with a company named SteelBrick, which is why you have SBQQ as the starting phrase in any field, right? Like you guys have seen that. The SB stands for SteelBrick. And so as SteelBrick as a company was getting more and more funding, which was around 2014, 2015, right? People are starting to be like, oh my God, CPQ, like this is a really great tool. I love using this. It was fantastic because you could do customized pricing. It extended what Salesforce offered. And Salesforce was like, yo, SteelBrick, I would like to buy this for $360 million. They shelled out a good chunk of money to buy SteelBrick, which was in late 2015. And then, like any Salesforce acquisition, it takes a very long time for it to adopt all of the documentation. So from 2015 to about present, which is about a decade, it took Salesforce a very long time to put a lot of that documentation online so that people could become experts. And even though the documentation is there, it is still a very hard tool to learn. So we are going to keep going and learning more about history, right? I forgot about this slide, that the SB stands for SteelBrick with that prefix. And what makes CPQ a very challenging tool is that it is the opposite of Salesforce configuration. Salesforce configuration is all setup based, right? It's all about the metadata. CPQ is record base. So if you don't have the right records in the right combination, you will not get anything done, which is why it is not a common skill that a lot of people have learned, because it takes a different mindset in order to achieve it. Now, when we talk about different mindsets, we have to talk about the difference between regular CPQ, or sorry, I should say Steelbrick CPQ, which is just CPQ. You know, we're not going to reference Steelbrick anymore, and Salesforce. So the difference between the two, and I will start on the far right with standard functionality, is that in Salesforce, you do have the ability to create a quote record. It is 100% possible. You can go in, you can add a product to a quote, you can give that quote and do some very basic print of the quote so that you can give it to your customer. But it's very basic in what it allows you to do, which is that you can add a product, you can then select its product pricing, and you can give it a discount. But that discount is just like, cool, it's a one-time discount. But what it doesn't do is allow you to say, well, what about if I wanted to sell this product year over year? Standard quote function in Salesforce doesn't allow you to do that, which is where, when we're looking at the far left, CPQ comes in. CPQ, standing for Configure Price Quote, allows you to customize the entire process in terms of the products that you're offering, what price points they should be offered at. And specifically, when we talk about that, we're talking about complex pricing, meaning you can price a product over multiple years. You can give out bulk prices, saying that if you buy a quantity of 8, while the regular price is just $100, if you buy 8 of them, we'll actually give you a small discount, and instead of paying $100 a piece, you'll actually only pay $50 a piece. You can do something called layered discounts, meaning you can apply multiple discounts to the same quote line. And it allows for you to prorate. So I assume most of you are adults and use utilities, right? Yes. So when you get a bill from your utility company, sometimes it's prorated for a month, especially if you move in late, for those who live in apartments. Or if you purchase a home, maybe you move in on the 17th. You'll notice that your bill goes from the 17th to the 17th or to the 16th, and so on and so forth. Standard Salesforce functionality does not give you that ability to prorate and say, well, maybe if they start at mid-month, we're actually only going to prorate and have them pay from the 17th to the 30th. And then in the following month, they'll just pay from the 1st to the 30th or the 28th or the 31st, you know, whatever that month is. So many months end in so many different days. So when we're talking about CPQ and why it is special, we are really looking for the ability to create complex pricing. So if you hear people and they're like, oh my God, we want to buy CPQ, I want you to ask them why, right? I want you to keep those 4 things in mind of multi-year bulk pricing, layered discounts, and proration. Because if you don't hear your customer or even your own company talk about the fact that they want to do this type of complex pricing, tell them don't waste their time or their money. Or if they're going to waste their time or their money, they can call me. I don't mind getting paid as a consultant to tell people don't do stuff. I'm totally okay with that. But CPQ is specifically built to do those things. In the event that you don't need it, please don't buy it.
That's what we ended up doing.
Yeah, don't buy
We-
CPQ if you don't need it.
We thought we needed it and did not.
Yes, it is horrible to rip out of an org. So don't. Which brings us to the next phase, right? And the next phase in this presentation is talking about the different pricing methods. So the reason that I want to specifically talk about the pricing methods is because this is the bread and butter of what CPQ does. So you can have something as simple as a one-time purchase, right? It's an individual fee. You only pay $5,000 and that's it. No more, no less. When we get into more complex things like multi-year subscription, that is what allows SaaS companies to go through and say, wonderful, I want to sell them a product that's going to elapse a contract term of 36 months. Notice I'm saying months here. I'm not saying years, I'm not saying day, I'm saying months. And really, because in CPQ, you're going to be thinking about contracting mostly from a month perspective. Sometimes you can think about it from a day perspective, and that's again where that proration is going to come in. But more often than not, it's about the number of months that are going to be in a contract. And it will look at it based off of a 12-month term. You can customize that, but it just might make some things funky. So be prepared to do a lot of testing. But what it will do is in the window, it'll allow you to say, great, in year one, I want to give a price of $100. But because this is a multi-year contract and we're a SaaS company, we already know, like Salesforce does, right? Salesforce releases so many updates a year, 3 times a year, I believe, if I remember that correctly. But you don't have to pay extra for that. So in year 2, we're actually going to do a small uplift. We're going to say you paid $100 in year 1, but in year 2, we're going to make you pay $120. We're going to charge you an extra $20. And in year 3, we're going to add another $20 onto that. So year 1, you paid 100. Year 2, you pay 120. And in year 3, you're going to pay 140. So it allows you to do those small uplifts to get more money because theoretically, you've been a great provider, right? Your business has done well. You keep providing things to your customers, so you keep increasing the price. Because otherwise, if you just charge $100 over 3 years, well, you're not going to make any extra money. That's okay. The fourth, or sorry, not fourth. Oh my gosh, can I not count? Here, watch. I'm going to drink water and then we're going to try to count. Okay, one of the third pricing methods that you can use in CPQ is the ability to create what's known as a bundle. Now, a bundle sounds exactly what it sounds like. It is a collection. It is a compilation, not a bundle of joy, not that bundle. Because that's only possibly one tiny human. I don't know. How many normally? It's only
It's a
usually one.
bundle, it's just one.
It's just the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the one. In CPQ terms, a bundle could mean a combination of multiple things. So say, for example, I'm assuming, this is an assumption, everyone has purchased a computer at some point in time, right? And then you go on the website, like I love a Lenovo computer, and it allows you to go through and select all the things that you want. Yeah? That is a product bundle. You guys are using CPQ and didn't even know it. So it allows you to say, cool, I'm going to buy one computer, but underneath, I'm going to offer different features or additional products that can go with the computer. So that way, it can be built into the price. So in my last experience of buying a computer, the computer itself, based off of whatever model I chose, was say $1,000. But then I get to pick what type of hard drive I want. Then I get to pick if it's going to have extras, like a built-in camera or maybe even an external camera. Do I want it to come with more ports or not? Those different types of options are what are in a product bundle, where you can say, well, if you choose the standard hard drive, that's only going to cost you an extra $100. But if you want the bigger hard drive, we're going to charge you another $200 for that. So that allows you to change the price within that one product. And our last and final pricing method, and by final, I mean the only one that I'm going to teach you all. Again, you're not experts. Please don't use that language outside of this, okay? This is just your introduction to this. is usage-based pricing. Meaning if, let's see, the electric company is a very good example. You don't pay for electricity you don't use. So every month your bill is slightly different. Usage-based pricing is what that is in real life. So it allows you to say, great, we're going to estimate someone's usage over a 12-month term. But in CPQ, you can come back and you can actually update it to say, here was the actual. So it allows you to forecast what you think you're going to get. And then on top of it, see what was actually done so you can do that sales analysis. Now, before I go on, questions, comments, concerns, random facts of the day.
Would you use product bundles for like variations? Say you're pricing out like t-shirts and they come in small, medium, large, extra large. Is that a consideration when you're setting up the pricing?
It could be.
Okay.
So in that scenario, if I had a client come to me or a customer or even my own company and said, hey, we're going to sell the shirts that are on that table. It's the same shirt, theoretically, but you need to be able to buy them as a package. Yeah, you would have a product option that says, here's the small size, here's the medium size, here's the large size, extra large, and so on. And then it's just based off of the quantity, theoretically, I could see this, where maybe a small costs $7, and this is now that I say this out loud, I don't like this. This would be a terrible, I mean, companies do this, but like they'll charge $7 for a small, but they'll charge $13 for an extra large. Yeah, right? That's
Fair
terrible.
enough, right? You're already conscientious about it.
Yeah,
They smack you for it. That's bad.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, it's extra material. To be honest, it's not all that much extra material. It's really not, but that's what companies do, okay? We're now getting into the mindset of companies. But yes, that would actually be a really great example of when you would use a product bundle.
Okay.
Because then they're just buying a package of shirts, and you could even put limitations and say, great, you can buy 50 of them, but what are in the 50, what sizes do you want? So that's really good. Other questions, other comments, concerns? No, okay, we're gonna keep going. So, as we continue to talk about different pricing methods, that last slide was really going over from a high level, how you kind of have to think about how you want to structure your products. When we actually go through to price this, you've got some different options that allow you to give different pricing based off of what's happening. So the first is the standard one, which is just the list price, right? If the t-shirt costs $5, you show it at $5. Pretty simple. When we move into block pricing, that is saying if you buy it in certain intervals, we will actually decrease the price that you are paying. So let's take the shirts example. Say you buy one packet of 50 shirts. We are going to price that at, ooh, that's a great question. I'm going to hold on to that question, Michelle. That was a good one. So say you have, right, the 50 shirts, right? And 50 shirts, just those 50, are going to cost you, let's just go with $150. Well, if you buy a quantity of 3 of those, then you have 150 shirts at $450. We're not going to change it, right? But say you actually want to buy 10 packs of 50 shirts. We will now decrease that unit price to say, if you go over a quantity of 4, your unit price is now going to drop to 100. And that's just automatic. You just went in, put the quantity, and boom, it already knows it's going to give you 10 packs of 50 shirts and charge you a unit price of 100 instead of 150. When we talk about cost markup, this is really great for partners or resellers, right? A partner will buy something and then resell it to you at a slightly higher cost. So that is the method that they're using of saying, well, maybe we purchase these shirts at $10, right? And we're going to go ahead and mark it up by another $15 so that the shirts come out to be 25. So that way we make a revenue stream of $15. Because the original 10 is already just going to pay for the cost of the shirt that the provider is buying. But that 15 allows them to create their revenue stream. When we talk about contracted pricing, this is really good for individuals who work at companies who have a very large set of employees. So has anyone ever worked at a hospital? Putting my hand down, I've never worked at a hospital. What about fire department? No, okay, I'm striking out here. Who else would buy things in bulk? I don't know. All right, well, we'll just move on. I can't seem to find any other example, but say you work at a hospital. A hospital is going to provide you as an employee a phone, right? Because they don't want you doing stuff on your personal phone. That's HIPAA violations. We don't like that. So what they will do is say, great, if you take this code and you go to, say, Verizon to buy a new phone, you will automatically get a price of $50 for that phone instead of $150, simply because you bought it with the hospital. Contracted prices allow you to say, I'm going to create a relationship with this other company because they have a large employee base who are going to buy these products. So instead of giving them the list price, we're just going to say, look, as long as you can tell us what company you're with, automatically you get a discounted price, which is really, really amazing. From a SaaS perspective, it's a sales lever that you get to use. Now we have batch pricing, which is very similar to block pricing. That's why they're on the same line, which is that you're selling products in batch quantities. So in this case, let me make sure. Actually, I have an example in the next slide that shows you these pricing. So I'm actually just going to keep going. We'll come back to batch pricing because it looks very similar to block pricing. And finally, you've got percent of total. And percent of total, what it allows you to do is say, hey, this is the total price, but add on another 15% because they decided to select this one option. So I know that was a lot of words, right?
We have one question.
Yes.
How would you implement the requirement to provide a customer with tier pricing based on a threshold of total money spent with your company? We have. That's a good question.
That is a good question. All right, so I should answer the first question, which is how does CPQ relate to price book? CPQ relates to a price book by going, we're just going to go to the next slide. In CPQ, you do still have to use the price book, right? That's what allows you to set your list price. Now you can set the list price as in this screen, you can set it at $50,000. Totally fine. And you can still use different price books. You should. There are different prices for different audiences. But where CPQ changes things is when you start to select different price types, right? So let's go to the next example, which is block pricing, which is you're determining your price based off of different quantities, right? So if I buy a quantity of 3, I'm getting charged the list price. Nothing has happened. But if I buy a quantity between 4 and 10, now I'm only getting charged $40,000 per product that I've bought. It overrides whatever price is in that price book. So it allows you to use different sales and discounting mechanisms in order to do this. Cost markup, we talked about that. So that's when you want to sell it by a higher percentage. So if your unit price is still $50,000 with a 5% markup, the customer is automatically going to see that being sold to them as $52,500. That's their price. From a contracted perspective, that goes back to if we were working at a hospital and we need to buy a phone from Verizon, they're automatically going to give us that product at $35,000 in comparison to the list price of 50. But it only happened until May 31st. So that's another fun facet about contracted pricing is you can set it to expire at any point in time. So if you're working in CPQ and someone creates a quote on June 2nd, 2025, that pricing immediately goes back to $50,000. You don't even have to do anything. It just automatically sets it for any brand new quote. Batch pricing, determining it, the quantity determines the price. So you're selling a quantity of 4, this one's hard, at $50,000. So your quantity is actually just 1. But if you needed to get to a quantity of 12, you would change that to 3, and it would change your price to $150,000. That's why I said it's somewhat similar to block pricing, because it's got the very similar feel. And then finally, percent of total, which is saying, great, the price was $150,000, but if we're using the example of buying a laptop and you choose a different hard drive than the one that comes standard, instead of trying to say, great, the extra hard drive is $200, they'll actually just say, it's 15% of whatever the total is. So if your total is $150,000 and the side product is a 15% of that, then that side product price becomes $22,500 on top of the $150. I know that was a lot. Yeah, more questions. Okay. All right, so that was price book. Excuse me. How would you implement the requirement to provide a customer with tiered pricing based upon a threshold of total dollars spent at your company? That one's a good one. That one's a hard question. I'd have to think about that.
We have a reseller tiers for a company that they're getting more complicated, like a lot more complicated all of a sudden with the way they're doing pricing. And so if a company qualifies as a reseller, they've sold enough over the past year, then they get a contract year, and that contract year is like a 20% discount or 5, depending upon what tier they're on, what volume of sales they've had. They have different tiers for
Yeah.
all. So their price right now, I'm just taking everything and multiplying it by that percentage and generating it that way. But I don't know if that's sustainable, depending upon how complicated it gets.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm.
So with that, to answer this question in particular, what you would have to do is think about, are these products going to change, right? Like, what are the products that this company is selling? And the reason that I say that is because typically in CPQ, you do not create multiple products for different price points. You don't have to. That's what these pricing methods allow you to do. You just have that singular product record in your price book.
That's what we used to do all the time, is make
Yeah.
different products, different
Yeah.
prices, yeah.
Yup, and that is
Yeah.
where CPQ goes wrong. When people are like, oh, well, I want to sell this laptop at $50,000 if you buy a quantity of 4, but it's the same laptop, but if you sell it for a quantity of 8, it'll be a different price. And they create a whole separate product record.
Yeah.
I would look at you and want to smack you so hard, just
Don't do that.
right across the face. And I'm not even wearing rings today, so you'd be real lucky. All right, we're not even doing backhands, okay? And the reason that I say that is because that is just not, like, at no point in time are those products ever different. It's the same product, just at a different price point. So you should use one of these pricing methods. But if we're talking about tiered pricing and it's based upon a threshold, this is where you're starting to layer in complexity, and you have to determine, are these set of products basically never going to change? And that is a hard question to answer, because it's effectively locking in this company at never being able to either change their products, or every time they introduce a new one, you have to replicate that entire structure every single time. And then the products will change. Ew. Well,
Product offerings. You might introduce a new thing.
Yeah, like you might have product one and then you might introduce product two. At that point in time, you just have to kind of accept whatever structure you build. So you might be building out the tiered pricing as literally separate products in order to try and use what's available in CPQ. But I would also say maybe you need to reevaluate your product structure and how you're discounting things if you're trying to use CPQ, because you can do a lot, but CPQ is nothing more than a fancy calculator. That's all it does. It just calculates. And it can only do so many different types of calculations. The pricing methods that we've gone over here are fairly basic, but you can't, there's no growth from here. And I will also note, Salesforce is not adding new types of pricing methods. We're not getting that. Whatever Steelbrick built is what we got. And if you're reading the release notes, they don't release anything else. So yeah, I'm sorry I don't have a quick answer for that, Michelle. That would just take more time and effort to sit down with that company and think about what products are they offering, how are they doing it. You're making the note that maybe CPQ is not the right tool. Yeah, it might not be. It's really about sitting down and thinking about the entire product structure and how you intend to sell it to your customers. Because that is a hard question to answer.
Can the markup be a markdown?
You could try doing a negative price. I don't recommend it.
Okay.
CPQ does not like negative prices.
Okay.
I've had at my own company them give a negative discount, and when the opportunity record goes to create a renewal record, yeah, that pricing comes out real weird when you start putting in negatives. So really, that brings us to what the next slide is, which is on discount structures.
Okay.
So there's really two pieces to CPQ, which is pricing structures, which we just went over, and now discounts. They will inherently feel very similar as I go through and explain them. And I'm sure you're going to think the same thing that I do, which is, well, why don't you just call it all pricing? No, they have very different, they're very different and when and how you should use them. With pricing methods, that's to set the price immediately upon selection of the product and setting of the quantity. When we talk about discount structures, we're actually going to say reduce the price after all of that has been set. So we have schedules and compounds. That is very similar to batch and block pricing, where you're going to reduce it based off of the quantity that's been purchased. The distributor and partner is when you're going to say, we're just going to discount the entire contract simply because you're associated with someone who we partner with. So you automatically get a 5% discount across the board. You can do individual discounting prices on a singular product, or you can do what's known as total customer amount, which is just, I need this entire contract, even if it's over 3 years, to be no more than $150,000. So just like last time, I've got a lovely table here where we can go through and actually see what that does to the pricing. So if our unit price is $50,000 and we choose to just discount that individual line at 10%, the customer is now only going to pay $45,000. Their unit price will still show $50,000. List will show 50, customer unit price will show 50, but their total will show 45.
Is there a section for discounts?
There is a section for discounts. When we talk about schedule, again, this is very similar to block and batch pricing. Your unit could be $50,000 and it will still say $50,000 times whatever the quantity is. But now it's going to automatically enter in a discount of 10% because you bought 5 of them. Or if you buy 6 to 20 of them, automatically enters in a discount on that line at 25. Compound is the literal hardest discount in the world. use this sparingly, please. What this does is effectively say that if you, to get the discount, you must order all of product on one of, I will answer that after. With compound pricing, what this is saying is, you've got a myriad of different quantities that are on here. And based off of that quantity, we are going to go find the matching discount amount and then apply it. It's very weird. So the math is saying if you have a quantity of 5, that gets you a discount of 10%. But if you have a quantity of 10, we'll give you a discount of 15%. So effectively doing like a V lookup and saying, tell me what your quantity is, I'll go find the discount. And then once it gets that number, you're gonna do that as the division 1 over that discount amount and then multiply it by your unit price. And that is your discount. It is the hardest, most complicated discounting option available. So just be careful. Be very careful. Distributor, we talked about how it's just automatically going to give you a 10% discount if you are with a certain account. And target customer, I don't have an example because it's just saying, I don't care what the price is. I'm going to discount all of these lines to whatever I need to hit that number that you give me. So in the meeting chat, I love this tool. This is such a nice tool. It says, customers have requested to know the discounts they're receiving too. This type of thought is more prevalent in APAC. APAC being the Asian Pacific, and I forget what the C stands for. But we understand.
I think it's just Asian.
Asian Pacific, PAC is Pacific.
Oh, Pacific,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, if you need to know the discounts that they're receiving, you can display that in a standard quote document. Standard CPQ does allow you to do that, where it's gonna say, great, here is your original price, and then here is the discount that you're receiving, and then your total price at the end of that. To get the discount, must you order all the product on one order? Oh, that's a, must you order all the, that depends on how you set up your discount structure, right? So it could be, and this is where, from a CPQ perspective, if you go into this space and it's something that you want to become an expert in, again, none of you are experts after this, do not say any of these words, all right? I did not tell you you were experts, not that good, not yet. But if you do go into this space and you're working on this, you want to work in collaboration with whoever is coming up with these sales practices. Because each of these methods are just sales levers, right? So say you've got a customer, long-standing customer, and suddenly they just don't like your product anymore. And they're like, I want to leave. I want to go. I do this with Comcast all the time. I hate Comcast. But it's okay, because every time I use the magic words and say, well, I'm leaving you and I'm going to Verizon, they transfer me to customer retention. And customer retention gets to pull all of these lovely discount levers, right? They get to apply all of those lovely discounts. That could just be the standard unit discount, but if I agree to buy a certain product at a higher quantity, they'll be like, cool, I'll give you a scheduled discount. Like, let's do that, right? You have to work hand in hand with whoever is coming up with these sales methods and tell them what the options are in CPQ, so that they can figure out the sales strategy that goes along with that discount. Because to answer the question, must you order all of the product on that one order? No, you do not. You don't have to. Because in CPQ, the traditional method is you have a new business opportunity. That's the first time you're working with a customer. Now, if that contract is over a 36-month term, it's possible in those 36 months, they might come back and be like, look, I want to renegotiate. How many of you have tried renegotiating a Salesforce contract, mid-contract? Yeah, all of your faces are like, no, because you know not to change that pricing. But some companies will allow you to do that, which means that the next opportunity that gets created is what's known as an amendment. And in that amendment, you can apply additional discounts.
So it wouldn't be on the, okay,
So it wouldn't be on the first
so
opportunity.
yeah, it's just a new
It's
opportunity.
a new opportunity, yes. And then when the 36th term elapses, you're creating a third opportunity, which is known as your renewal opportunity. And it's gonna have everything from the first contract plus whatever you did in the amendment. That's theoretically if you co-term. Please co-term your contracts. Oh my God, please. Like, do not select co-term. Always co-term. Always. Otherwise, you just have this cascade of contracts. It's not pretty. I know I don't have like a physical example. It's just not pretty. Just trust me. It's like unrolling a ball of yarn and then splitting the yarn in half and then splitting the yarn in half and like, no, it's like split ends. Don't do it. Cut them off, please. So, does that answer your question, Michelle? I want to make sure. You can come off mute. It's okay.
Yeah, just that I'm looking at the other screen because I have you on a big screen, so I'd be looking that way all the time. So yeah, I have a question about that. I don't understand what you mean by co-term. So do you mean two contracts that are both active at the same time?
Yes, that's actually a good point. Co-term is to say co-terminus. So if you have an original contract that is for 36 months, let's go with 2024 to 2027. And in the middle of that, here in 2025, we decide we want to buy an additional product. Well, if we buy an additional product in 2025 and it keeps a 36-month term, we actually now have one contract that ends in 2027 and another one that would end in 2028. That is horrible from a customer perspective.
Yeah,
Just
keep
funny,
worrying
because
about
Salesforce
paying.
does that all the time.
Yeah, they do that.
They do that. I got lots of feelings on CPQ. You can do that. You can decide not to co-term. You just possibly will be angering your customers because now you will have gone back in 2027 to do a contract renewal for your original product. And then you're going to talk to them 1 year later to do it for that one additional product you bought mid-contract. When you co-term, you actually say, I don't care that you bought it in 2025. It's going to end with the rest of your products in 2027.
The realignment.
Correct.
Yeah.
It aligns everything so that way, when you get to your renewal, you've got all of the products and you don't care that technically they did not complete a full 36 term. We don't care because also we gave you a prorated price, right? We don't care because if you bought it in 2025, well, 2024 is already elapsed. You didn't pay anything for that. So we don't care. And if you bought it, say it was from a January to December, and it's now February, we're not going to charge you for the first month of that next set of 12 months. We're just going to charge you for 11 months, not 12. So please co-term if you're ever using CPQ. When you don't, it just creates headaches and then you can't automate things.
All right, so what you mean by co-term is that the terminus of each of the contracts is on the same date?
Each of the products is on the same date.
Each contract for different products, you're saying?
Each product record has its own set of start and end dates. And technically you have one contract to start. If you add a product in the middle of that contract, you're not creating a brand new contract. What you're doing if you do not co-term is you've got one contract, but one of the products has an end date outside of the original contract term. And it just becomes extremely painful to manage.
Yeah, I can see where there's a conflict between what the system can do and what sales would like to do.
So that's why you have to have a very strong individual who knows CPQ very well and works hand in hand with whoever comes up with the discount structures, all those cool levers of being like, well, what are we going to offer to our customers? You have to work with that person and say, I hear you. Let's change that option slightly. Like, how about we make it like we're going to massage it to fit within CPQ? Because to do anything custom with CPQ, you would have to have a developer, and that developer can then never leave. Not a lie, because if you want to customize outside of the options that CPQ gives you, and by the way, this is not a complete list of all of the discount options that are there. This is just the ones that I want you guys to know because these are the easiest. There's more complex things. And it's just a pain. I don't like the more complex things. But if you wanted to go outside of that, you need someone who can write Apex code because they are going to be forcing the calculator to work entirely different than what it's already built to do. And if it's not known, CPQ calls out to a Heroku server. So you're not even doing the math in your own instance. That is a Heroku API call that goes, does some fun math with all of the records that you created, and then gives you back a number. Which is why it is record-based, not metadata-based. Fun. All right, which, wow, we're already at 5:50. Look at this. Leads us to the last thing. Deployment practices. Again, you guys are not experts, but this is giving you the basics of what you need to know. When you are using CPQ, it is always recommended that you get a full copy sandbox. That recommendation is like a serious recommendation. Usually, do you need a full copy sandbox? Absolutely not. You can live with partial. All right? Don't pay the money if you don't have to. But the minute you buy CPQ, you are going to want a full copy sandbox. And the reason is because CPQ is what?
Data.
Data. It is record based. Meaning if you have a partial sandbox and it only brought over half of your CPQ records, that calculator is going to fail because it does not have all of the records it needs to do the math correctly every single time. And because it is record-based, you do not want to go through the process of having to import all of those records. It is a pain. And on top of it, you have to do it in the right order. Just stop and get yourself a full copy sandbox. Don't bother. Go full copy and live your life. So once you have a full copy sandbox, theoretically, you can go through this one of two ways, which is one, a manual deployment. And it's manual because it is
Record-based.
It's record-based. So you have to create those records by hand, or you can try mass importing them. But again, you have to do that in the right order. Who wants to remember to do that in the right order? Nobody. Which would mean you need to document all of the things. Every single step that you took, every single record you created. Because when you're working in a sandbox and you're trying real cool things, you're going to create a bunch of records that you might not actually end up using. So you need to be methodical in the documentation that you are writing. And ultimately, if you decide you do not want the risk of manual deployment, please go and look at these different deployment tools. GearSet, Capado, Blue Canvas. I am not sponsoring any of these tools. I'm simply acknowledging that they exist. You do not have to buy them on my behalf. Don't tell them I told you to buy them. You're not going to get like a partner discount. That does not exist. I have no relationship with them. So that's it. That's the end. That's the introduction to CPQ. Whose head is on fire?
I thought I learned a lot. My head's very not on fire.
Yes.
I had the bad situation where we had the full sandbox. We didn't get much past that first bullet point because I was in a tech company and there was a lot of say layoffs, things moving around, and CPQ kind of got lost in the shuffle. But we were in the full sandbox at least. So got that one right.
Yeah.
But that was very helpful. The record-based thing, I probably should have known that. But yeah, that was very helpful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anybody else got questions, comments, concerns?
I'm not sure if I understand the record-based concept.
Okay,
Could you give
so
an example?
yeah. So when you are adding prices on a product, you have to create a price book record, right?
Yeah,
In order, I'm gonna go back. So when we're talking about these pricing methods, where we're saying block pricing, I'll use that as the example, where if you have a quantity of 1 to 3, you are creating a block record where you're entering in a starting quantity of 1 to a starting quantity of 3. And then there's a field that says, well, what's the price that you want that to be? And then you're creating a second record that's going to say your starting quantity is 4, your ending quantity is 10. What's the price you want that to be? So that when you make that Heroku call, Heroku is going to go and look and say, cool, this product should be priced by block pricing. Let me go look at all of the block pricing records. Let me find and effectively do a VLOOKUP. What's the quantity? Quantity is 7. Well, which record falls under 7? 4 to 10? Give it a unit price of $40,000. It puts it back into your Salesforce and says, customer unit price for this product is $40,000. So it is all by creating a record in Salesforce. You are not going into setup. There is nothing to do in the back end of setup. Technically, that is a lie. You sometimes do have to do setup things for CPQ, but I didn't teach you that because you guys aren't experts and this was a basics class. So, but everything you do is from a literal record. It is one of the few products.
So in one of these records, and this is where we're gonna like maybe pass beginner just slightly, but is the record like, is a t-shirt a record in what we were talking about earlier, or is it, but it's a
Yes.
t-shirt embedded with discount, embedded with whatever, all the other things you're talking about?
Yes.
So it's
Well,
a product exploded, really, I mean, with all of the
Yes.
CPQ isms.
It's the
Yes.
product of blue t-shirt in small.
Right.
Yes.
So
So
you're gonna have for every one of your different t-shirts, you're gonna have different products.
yes, I wish that I had kept my CPQ org because this would have been really helpful. Let me see if I can create one really quickly. Probably not though.
Yeah, I think about that a lot, like you have products with variations, color, size, all that kind of thing, like how do you structure
I mean,
that?
it's
into
different if
every
it's
unique
if
combination?
it's an accessory add-on like the computer or hard drive, that's different. But the
Yes.
product itself is different.
Mhm.
So when we talk about things like selecting the color or selecting the size, in CPQ, that's what's known as an attribute.
Yeah,
Definitely beyond this.
okay.
Like I can do a CPQ part 2.
Yeah, 201?
Yeah. So here, I will do this. Can I?
So the product could be a t-shirt and it would just have different attributes.
Yes.
Effectively
Okay.
pick lists
Okay.
within the product itself, I mean, or something like that.
On the product line
Yes.
item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. So
Yeah, right, the product, right.
I don't have an org, and so I'm just gonna take you through Trailhead. This specific one on creating a smartwatch attribute is specifically where we're talking about getting to customize a product based off of different quote unquote features, right? It's not gonna give us a good, there we go. This is what I want. Right? I just kind of want to show you this. Let me do that because in CPQ, too much. There we go. In CPQ, what you have, the smartwatch, can I annotate? Yes, I can. Okay. Here where we see smartwatch band, this is one product record. That's a singular product record, right? These different lines that are available are what are known as product options. So that is creating a second record that says, cool, under smartwatch, I want to have the option of these two different bands. It's the same product because the band is the band. No one really cares, right? Like you're not going to have a smartwatch band for a blue one versus a brown one. No one cares. You're just going to have one that's the smartwatch band. That's the one product. And you're going to offer it as two separate lines because maybe, and this one doesn't necessarily have it, but maybe this one said gray and that one was blue.
An accent thing if theirs is like gray.
Yeah, technically that does exist and I get why they put it there, but you could also do something where it was a column here.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to necessarily be displayed up here. But if you were to look in an org, these correspond to a record. You cannot go into setup and find this. You would go into an org or an app, theoretically your CPQ app. You would click on a product record and under Smart Band, it would show you two record options to say, hey, we are included in this particular group, right? Like we are part of that product bundle. So it is all record based. This is the very few times as an administrator, developer, or architect that you are responsible for creating records in your system versus your end users.
Is inventory management at all part of CPQ, like your quantities of your light gray watch band?
No.
Okay.
CPQ does not do inventory.
Okay.
Because inherently it is configure, price, quote, configure your product, price it, and then give a quote of it.
Yeah.
You could buy something else, and I don't believe that with revenue management, I don't think that it comes with that. So you would likely, if you're having to do inventory, buying something else that does inventory base and layering it on top of CPQ.
You're getting into like ERP at that point.
Yes.
That's kind of my next question is about the ERP aspect of this. In other words, if you have smartwatch band and it comes in light gray and blue, and it has to go with a watch, let's say, because, well, you could buy it on its own or you can buy it with a watch. So if you're buying it with a watch, it's almost like a bill of material, like a kit, because you're getting the watch and then you're getting a choice of band.
That is where the bundle would come in.
Okay.
So at that point, you've got a smartwatch product bundle where you can see these product options where you can select a watch, or sorry, you can select a band. You don't have to have these two options selected, right? You can actually say, cool, the watch band is optional. Like when you click on the smartwatch product, it'll bring you to this page and then it'll say, you can select a watch band, but it won't force you to select one. It'll let that be optional. But also in the same place where you selected that you wanted to buy a smartwatch, you could just select a smartwatch band as a singular product. But that comes from a product record configuration of whether or not you'd want to offer it as both a component of another product or a standalone. And that is getting into more advanced CPQ than I intended to teach any of you.
So you can have the different pricing methods all in play all at the same time.
On different products, yes. Because it's product based, it's not quote based. But
So are you showing this information in the catalog, in the product catalog to the customer?
depends on who you are to the customer. If you are working internally, this is just you doing this, and theoretically your product marketing team knows what they've asked you to do. I say theoretical. Because sometimes products and product marketing don't talk to each other. So there's that. If you are a consultant doing this on behalf of a client, they will have provided you documentation to tell you how to configure everything. It's not going to look like how we just went over things. Like, you're not going to get documentation that's like, I want a block pricing. They're not going to do that. They're going to give you information written in a way that makes sense for them. And then you have to be the one who translates that and says, so this is what I heard that you need to be able to sell it. And that will mean we're going to use block pricing. And then should you tell them that that's what you did? Yes. I feel like that's an inherent thing to do, but I also know that some consulting companies don't like to do documentation. So I can't tell you that that's a standard thing that happens.
My question is more like, how does the catalog automatically pull from this information to put the right information on the screen for the user to see, the customer to see?
The customer would never see this.
The customer would see the end result. They would see the watch, the smartwatch, and then they would see choice of bands.
Yeah,
And they
but
would see the price.
that's the quote PDF. That's when you're going through and generating a document, and you can structure that in any way. You can use standard CPQ and its ability to generate a quote document, or you could use something like Conga or DocuSign. It 100% depends on however you want to visually display that. But from a CPQ perspective, this is a completely internal tool. Your customer should never see CPQ. If you're trying to do something like you want it to be external, that's really where you're going to be getting into buying Commerce Cloud. So
Well, that's
that,
exactly what I'm talking about. Does this work with Commerce Cloud?
I don't do Commerce Cloud, so I can't answer that. And that's
Um,
also more advanced CPQ than I intended to teach anybody. Good questions, but more advanced than I intended for today's conversation. I have no reason to believe it doesn't work with Commerce Cloud. No reason, but that's just a question of making sure, do you understand what your online store looks like? And then did you set up CPQ to also support that? So.
Yeah, I'm curious as to how it works. I mean, we all know a price book works, but this is different.
That might be a part 3. Give me some time for that. I might have to talk to Salesforce and be like, yo, can I have a commerce org? Awesome. That's all I got. Do you guys have more questions?
Really, I knew nothing about CPQ coming in. I kind of had an idea of what it sort of does, but now I realize how complex it is.
Which is why if you ever see positions that say, hey, I need a CPQ administrator, that is one person's job. That also means that that company is changing their product pricing all of the time. That's why that person is so busy. They literally don't do anything else. They are doing that thought process of which product pricing or which discount structure to use all of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I would say prices in a lot of companies change every quarter. Sometimes they have a price emergency change, like they can't get something, so the price goes up, an ingredient,
Yeah, but that's where you just do uplifts.
Yeah.
That's not even changing the list price. That's not I'm just putting an uplift on a product. We also didn't get into price rules or product rules. There's so much more to CPQ
Yeah,
that we
right.
even tried getting into. And yeah, that's more advanced CPQ than what we're ready for.
So is there any interface between CPQ and the actual bill of material?
Come on. If you buy Revenue Cloud,
Really?
that's buying Revenue Cloud though. You don't have to have a billing system with CPQ. You can bring any billing system you want. If you want it to be Salesforce, buy Revenue Cloud.
Not that kind of bill, not the money kind, the product structure kind. Like a bill of materials, meaning like when you do an explosion of a product and you see what it's made out of or components, there could be, for example, you can explode assemblies, but we're not talking at that level. We're talking now, like you said, a bundle, for example. But
Yeah,
that logo also exists in a bill of materials somewhere.
that's where we're getting back into this.
Yeah,
This is, if you have components that are part of a main product, product
mhm,
options. And then you
Product
just display that however you choose.
right. And so I guess my question is, are these product options coming from anywhere? Do they have, they're keyed in from scratch here?
No, you're configuring this, right? Like these are literal products that exist that you are building in combination. And I would say, this module, let me go ahead and clear all of this. Like if you want to see how it works, this is the module that you need to use to understand product options and to see it for yourself.
Smartwatch one? Yeah,
Yeah, like this is the one that you want to use.
okay.
If you want to understand what it looks like, by all means, come to this trailhead module and do exactly this one. It's going to have you create a product option. It's going to have you create some configurations. You'll get to see the actual experience, but don't just jump into this. Go read some other things about CPQ first, or try jumping in. You never know. I can't dictate how people choose to learn. All right. I can recommend, and that's all I can do. But the questions you're asking are great. Inherently, it's just more than what we intended to cover in this discussion.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Also, I have no other people in chat. You may have this back. That's so cool. I love that.
Awesome. Anything else for Carmel?
Thank you so much for sharing your really wide, broad knowledge of this subject and narrowing it down for us to just the basics.
I'm just wondering if Padawan is okay. Can we go with Padawan?
Funny. No, you may not.
Not Padawan?
No, not even
Just
there.
for a title.
No, not even there. Like in the world of,
Really novice, not even.
yeah, like you're nothing. No, I'm sorry, you look like a baby. You don't, there's no
Those
title.
are called younglings.
Yes, there,
Young
okay,
ones.
fine. You see, young babies. Yeah,
I'll take that.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, you've
it's a
got
title.
zero skill whatsoever.
Young.
There you go.
Keep it.
All right.
Um,
We'll have to have
I
you
think
back
that's a
for,
badge. That's a
yeah.
badge.
we'll have to have you back for a follow-up on, level 2, maybe level 3. So we're gonna keep you busy. Getting into
Teaching
the
people
CPQ,
how to be
absolutely.
CPQ experts, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm gonna stop the recording.